every morning with drive. Being on the grind, know I had to survive. We had to win. Started from the dirt and the rubble. I had to be the needle that was popping your bubble.
Hello and welcome into the Rookie Prospect Profile Series, a Zilla Fantasy Elite production. Today we're going to be looking at wide receiver Devontez Walker in the wide receiver machine learning models. Will Devontez Walker rise to the occasion, or is he destined to fade into obscurity? Discover the outcomes as our machine learning models provide the final say. Devontez Walker was drafted in the 4th round, 113 overall, so that's 3 behind Javon Baker. Start of that 4th round, saw a lot of receivers fall off the boards there. Devontez Walker comes in at 6'2", 193 pounds, pretty decent size there. He actually ran a 4.36 in the NFL Combine. They come into the league out of the University of North Carolina after transferring from Kent State. And he actually fought the NCAA and won in terms of his transfer over to the NCAA. They said he had to wait out a year. He fought it and won, and then ended up joining North Carolina halfway through the year or after a few games into the season to be Drake May's counterpart there in the wide receiver room. Devontez Walker was drafted by the Baltimore Ravens, so he joins a wide receiver room who isn't necessarily quite established. Zay Jones, Rashad Bateman, your two best there, a rookie and a guy that quite hasn't lived up to expectations. Devontez Walker did have some pretty good college stats, 43.3% college dominator rating and a 26.2 college target share. How is this going to stack up in his particular profile? Let's dive into that starting in year 1. Keep in mind that Devontez Walker was the 19th wide receiver drafted in the NFL draft here. When you're looking at these ranks, he does come in with the mean and median just above 4 there as the 22nd ranked mean and median. His maximum output at 9.31 is the 21st best in the class. CV at 30.1, right around that cutoff for an acceptable range for any data set. Again, we're working with some highly volatile stuff, so pretty good there. Let's go look at that mean and median hovering around 4. What rookie wide receivers hit that in their first season? All of these players are in between 3.8 and 4.2 fantasy points per game. We'll start from the bottom, go all the way up. Jalen Marshall, Cameron Meredith, Nelson Aguilar, Marquez Callaway, Quez Watkins, Dez Fitzpatrick, Michael Clark, Keelan Doss, Brandon Powell, Matt Collins, Curtis Samuel, Ventel Bryant, Miles Boykin, Philip Dorsett, and Kendrick Bourne. Not super good names in there. Nelson Aguilar and Curtis Samuel, the only ones that even reached double digits in the next 3 seasons following the rookie year with that low of a score. So keep that in mind. Going to be a little rough potentially for his profile here. I don't necessarily hate the Marquez Callaway, Quez Watkins, Dez Fitzpatrick type of archetype here for Devontez Walker in this particular scenario. That maximum output at 9.31, that lands him roughly in the top 65 in the last 11 draft classes. Not great, but that's in the Corey Coleman, Kembrell Tompkins, Darnell Mooney, Dede Westbrook, Terrence Williams, Josh Downs, John Brown type of range. And again, that's his maximum output. I wouldn't necessarily expect that in year 1 on the Baltimore Ravens squad. So what are we going to see from Devontez Walker heading into year 2? Well, let's take a peek here. And we see him jump up a considerable amount here in the mean and median, now above 7 here. Ranked 15th and 16th in the class. Again, he was the 19th wide receiver drafted, so keep that in mind. Maximum output at 13.39 is the 14th best in the class. And a CV, the 12th best in year 2 at 25.6. So again, the model pretty confident here in this particular result for Devontez Walker. Seeing a pretty nice jump up there in year 2. Let's get into his player comps around that 7 range for year 2. Who did that in the last 11 draft classes? Well, all of these players are hovering in between 6.8 and 7.4 fantasy points per game in their second season. Albert Wilson, Deontay Burnett, Brian Edwards, Quez Watkins again, we see him there. Khalil Shakir, Russell Gage, Traquan Smith, Kendrick Bourne, Rico Gafford, Corey Coleman, Jahan Dotson, Paris Campbell, and Corey Brown. Again, we kind of see that Quez Watkins archetype come into play here. Quez Watkins was, a 4.3 burner type, I think a little bit taller. Could be a very similar profile here to Devontez Walker, and that's what it's saying for his median outcome. That maximum output at 13.39, we start getting into top 40 territory. Again, we see Darnell Mooney in the maximum output here at 12.92. Sterling Shepard, Tyrell Williams, Kenny Galladay, John Brown, and Cortland Sutton all in this range, a little bit above him. And then a little bit below, we see Christian Kirk, Cam Meredith, Garrett Wilson last year, and Keenan Allen and Josie Robin Anderson in their year 2, hovering around 12.5 fantasy points per game. So we see a nice jump up there in year 2 for Devontez Walker, hovering a little bit above 7. Do we see another jump incrementally into year 3? Is he going to continue improving? Let's take a peek at that year 3 profile. And there we have it. We actually see about a 1.5 reduction in his mean and median output in year 3 for Devontez Walker. Unfortunately, not taking a step forward, but a step backward in year 3, hovering 5.61 and 5.43 respectively in the mean and median. 21st and 20th best in the class, maximum output at 20, hovering right around his 18th wide receiver off the board draft capital. Let's take a peek at his player comps in year 3. What wide receivers in their 3rd season within the last 11 draft classes were between 5 and 6. We have quite a few in here, looking between 4.99 and 6 flat fantasy points per game. Starting from the bottom, we have Lil Jordan Humphrey, Olamide Zaccheaus, Darius Slayton, Demarcus Robinson, Isaiah McKenzie, Paris Campbell, who we saw, I believe, earlier. That was Curtis Samuel, not Paris Campbell. Maurice Harris, Laviska Shenault, Kembrell Tompkins, Chris Conley, J.J. Nelson, Albert Wilson, Kenny Stills, Jakeem Grant, Justin Hardy, and Justin Hunter, all in between 4.99 and 6 fantasy points per game. So that's the rough range that you're looking for. Not a ton of double digits within those profiles. Laviska Shenault and Darius Slayton in year 1, Kenny Stills in year 2, but that's really about it. Getting into that maximum output, 14.35, 20th best in the class. Where does that put him? It's actually top 25 all time. Jarvis Landry was 24th best at 14.3. Others in that range, Devonta Smith, Steph Diggs, Jalen Waddle, DK Metcalf, Will Fuller, Hunter Renfrow, Devontae Adams, all within about 1 fantasy point per game of that maximum output. So that's some pretty solid numbers there in terms of reaching a ceiling. But again, 20th best in the class. There are 20 people better than that in this particular data set that the model is predicting for year 3. With the first 3 years out of the way, let's dive into year 4 and see what we get. We see another incremental jump up here for Devontez Walker compared to his year 3 output. 6.5 to 6.7 fantasy points per game in his mean and median range. Again, that's 14th and 11th best, and he was drafted close to the 20th wide receiver off the board, so a little bit above pace here. That maximum output, though, at 11.14 is the 25th best. Kind of saying in year 4, he's got one of those high floor, low ceiling type of profiles for the year 4 output. And at 27.7% CV, Devontez Walker, one of the stronger ones in year 4 for that particular output at 8th best in the class, suggesting that it's pretty confident in these particular results. So let's get into that 6 to 7 fantasy point per game range, see what wide receivers in their 4th year hit that, and see if we can find any comparables to what Devontez Walker may look like. Got about 12 receivers here or so looking at 6 to 7 fantasy points per game range, starting from the bottom. Alex Erickson, Jerron Brown, Quinton Patton, Nick Westbrook-Akine, Isaiah McKenzie, Tajay Sharp, Marquise Goodwin, Dante Moncrief, Olamide Zaccheaus, Demarcus Robinson, Bruce Ellington, and John Brown. Not exactly an inspiring list there, but roughly what you can expect in year 4 according to the machine learning model. Maximum output of 11.14 does not seem very high, but that does put him inside the top 40 within the last 11 draft classes. Others in this range, Kenny Stills, Deontay Johnson, Marquise Lee, T. Higgins, Russell Gage, and McCole Hardman. Not terrible there. That's getting up, into double digits, but plateauing there and having that as your ceiling isn't super inspiring. We'll have to see how his career kind of plays out. I wouldn't expect a ton in year 1 in that Baltimore Ravens offense. Maybe in year 2 if Rashad Bateman or somebody heads out. There's injuries to Mark Andrews, something like that. You could see him maybe having that year 2 bump up. But anyway, that's Devontez Walker, first 4 years in the NFL predicted by the machine learning models from Zilla Fantasy Elite. That's going to do it for today's rookie prospect profile on Devontez Walker. Again, this is presented by Zilla Fantasy Elite. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.